It was in the spring of 2011 when my husband and I were speaking at Glen Eyrie Retreat Center in Colorado Springs that we just happened to meet a marvelous couple by the name of Bob and Carrie O'Toole. And as she was sharing her testimony with me over dinner, I was absolutely blown away at the amazing life story that God had entrusted to her. And I could tell that she was very passionate about sharing this story. And one of the things that we have in common is that we have the exact same degree from the exact same university. Both have a master's in counseling and human relations from Liberty University. And I've been enthralled to see what Carrie is doing with her degree. And I don't want to steal any of her thunder by telling you in advance what it is that she's been focusing on. So I'm going to let her take it from here. Would you please welcome Carrie O'Toole?
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. Well, just a short snippet to let you know what's been going on. What took me into counseling and the degree was that after so many years of personal counseling and family counseling and parenting counseling and couples counseling and whatever else you can think of, my counselor finally said, you know what, you've really already earned this degree. Why don't you just go get the credits? And so I did. And one of the main things that took us into counseling was we have 2 adopted children. And our youngest was adopted from Vietnam, and he had what was considered severe reactive attachment disorder, which was something I was kind of nervous about when we went into adopting him and checked into it, but we were assured, oh, it won't be a problem. Well, it was a problem. We spent 8 years just trying everything with attachment specialists and counselors and therapists and prayer and you name it, special education and surgeries and all kinds of things. And this little boy was just so wounded, he could not attach to us. And so after 8 years, we ended up relinquishing our child to another couple. And that was 3.5 years ago. So our family has been on a recovery journey, learning again how to be a family of 4 instead of a family of 5. Most families, as you may know, don't make it through the loss of a child, and ours about didn't. So this is something that I've been working on with a publisher, and I'm getting ready to write a book, and I'm testing something out on you today. I really want people to understand what attachment is, but I don't want to use that terminology because it sounds too clinical and people sort of tune you out. And so I've been asked by this publisher to see what I can do about explaining this all and making it relatable without using any of these terms. So thank you, my wonderful guinea pigs, for being here today. So here we go. My dad got a call from my school. That's never a good thing. I flunked a test. I couldn't believe it because I was a really good student and I never flunked tests. Well, luckily I found out it was an eye test. Whew. So here I was, 13 years old in 7th grade, and I was, this skinny and this tall and this shaped like this all around. And I had braces and this long stringy hair. And now I got stop sign shaped glasses with a huge plastic nose piece to add to my beauty. And I went outside, and how many of you here wear either glasses or contacts? Anybody else fail that test? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. First time you walk outside in your new glasses, I looked down my street, and did you know that there was a stop sign at the end? I had never seen that before. And then I looked up, and the trees actually had leaves. Who knew? I just thought they were like big green blobs. So has anybody ever experienced that where you thought you knew something and how everything was and how the world worked, and all of a sudden something changed, just something little, and now you saw everything totally in a different way? Well, that's the way it happened for me. I'm going to talk a little bit about relationships and intimacy. How many of you think you kind of got that thing figured out? No? Oh, I was thinking like most of you would be, woo, I'm there. Okay, well, if you're not like me, then welcome to my world. How many of you have experienced difficulty with relationships? Have you struggled? Yeah, just keep the hands. Some of you may just sit here like this the whole time. Let's talk about any issues with your parents when you were growing up. Okay. Have you ever had struggles with friends? She's got both hands up. Have you felt lonely in a crowd? Have you ever wished for companionship with somebody who really understood? Have you ever struggled with relationships in your marriage? How about, do you wish you were a little closer to your children? What about God? Have you ever wished you were closer to God? Well, before God created humans, he lived in this Trinity that we all sort of know about, and I want to tell you, I am so baffled. God is one, God is three. The math, sorry, I was good at math and that don't work. I know it's true, I know it's like over my pay grade. So all I know is that God lived in perfect unity, intimacy with himself. Father, Son, Spirit. They did not need us. They weren't lonely. They weren't lonely. They existed in total, wonderful everything. Didn't need a thing. So they created us anyway, to share that with us, to teach us how to have that type of relationship amongst ourselves and also with him, them. Because I still don't get it. Anyway, so since we were made for relationship with God and with other people, why are they so hard? Did you ever think about this? Before the fall, Adam and Eve didn't have problems in their relationships. It was just easy. They were able to talk to each other, share feelings. There wasn't any weirdness. They weren't hiding. All of a sudden, the fall happens. Now they hide. They hide not only from themselves, meaning that they hide their own feelings. They hide reality from themselves. They hide things from each other, and they hide from God. So problems exist. We all have problems either opening up or trusting or finding people willing to talk to about important issues. Why is it so hard? Well, I believe that the answer does lie in the fact that we live in a fallen world. And because of that, we're all broken. We're dealing with other broken people. The earth is broken. And on top of that, there's just plain evil. And I want to talk about that for just a second. How many of you have ever gone to a retreat or a conference or something where you're thinking, okay, I'm really going to work on this area of my life? Maybe it's even losing weight or changing your diet or something. What happens right before? You end up getting sick. Your kids are sick. You get a flat tire, whatever. One time, I had waited 6 months to go learn how to be this certain type of Bible study teacher, had paid my money and had my reservation, and it was 3 days sitting in a hard chair. The day before, I got a hemorrhoid the size of Texas. And it's like, well, you're not going. Let me tell you something, that's not just a coincidence, I don't believe. I think evil exists. You know, John 10:10 says the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, and give you hemorrhoids. That's not in the Bible. But for this struggle, we have to learn how to fight the enemy. You just have to learn how to do that. Some things that happen in our lives, though, are not evil. It's just we live in this fallen world. There's problems in our relationships. Some of it starts very early in our lives. The original plan was after the fall, was for us to learn how to trust. God provided a way for each child to be born into a family with a mom and a dad. There's this cycle that happens. There's a baby, cries, I'm hungry, or my tummy hurts, or something. Mom or dad feeds the baby or changes the baby. Baby feels comfort. Now the baby feels trust, and they move closer towards the parent. Then they start again. Next time they're hungry, they cry again. Mom or dad feeds, they feel relief and comfort, they start to trust. This cycle happens hundreds and hundreds of times, and pretty soon that little baby starts to trust mom or dad. Then what happens is they start to move into their friendships, into into teachers, into other adults, and that's how you learn how to trust. That's the way it's supposed to happen. For many of us, though, it didn't work out that way. Some of us can remember specific things that happened that caused problems with our relationships earlier in life. Maybe we had needs and then comfort didn't come. Or instead of comfort, we were treated with harshness or abuse. Or maybe there was neglect or rejection or abandonment. Sometimes other people didn't intend to harm us, but our little hearts couldn't tell the difference between intentional and unintentional harm. Think about a car for a second. Let's say that you strap somebody that you love into your car, and you end up in an accident. Even though you didn't intend for that accident to happen, that person may still end up in the ICU or in rehab or whatever. The scars and the hurts are just the same, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Some of us had forced separations from our parents right at birth, maybe an illness where the child was in the hospital or the parent had to be hospitalized. Maybe there was a death or a divorce or an adoption. In our family, we had 2 that were adopted. And let me tell you, that can really cause scars in little babies. They don't understand. Even though you think that they don't have mental capacity for understanding things, they have been born and lived in that womb for 9 months, and all of a sudden they're taken straight from that mother and placed with somebody else. And there's kind of an insecurity about that that a lot of people don't really understand. There could have been a divorce or a natural disaster of some kind. All of these life circumstances can cause us to struggle trusting others. Some of us can't really point to anything specific that happened. I thought my family was perfect until I was 36. I realized, ooh, not so much. But anyway, I didn't think anything like this would cause problems for me. Why do I still feel anxious and fearful in relationships? Why do I have all of these issues? But I recognized that at certain developmental ages, if something happens to you at a really crucial time, it can still cause some type of a trauma or a hurt in some way that follows you through. Or just little times when you really needed attention and you got ignored over and over and over again, that can really cause some problems too. Whatever the case, most of us don't get through childhood unscathed. So we either trust too quickly, we jump into relationships, or we have trouble trusting at all. Sometimes we share our lives with people that really aren't trustworthy and they don't respect us, or we have difficulty sharing ourselves at all. The same is true with our relationships with God. Although we can't ever share too much of ourselves with God, our relationships with others do impact how we view God and how much we're willing to let Him see and how much we let Him in. We've all heard the word intimacy. Have you heard it broken down like this? Into me, see? I love that definition because that's a true definition of intimacy. How many of you saw the movie Avatar? This may seem like a weird little reference, but you know, the big blue people. So you've got the main character, Jake, and he becomes the blue avatar, and then he falls in love with the woman. What's her name? Anybody know? Well, Nala, something like big blue lady. So they fall in love. Everything's great, but he betrays her. And it's really devastating for her. Towards the end of the movie, he ends up saving her people. And the best part, she looks at him and she holds him and she says to him, I see you. And he says back to her, I see you. That's, I love you. I know you to the full extent of knowing. That's what intimacy is. That's what God has created for us. Many of us, though, don't really understand that. I'm going to throw a few songs at you and see if you can relate to any of these. This may show my age, but I'm a big Simon and Garfunkel fan. So the first song I'm going to give you is I Am a Rock. Sing along. I am an island. Some of you are like, huh? Yeah, you're too young. Anyway, those people, I'm a rock. I'm an island. What's that say? I don't need you. I'm independent. I don't want to share my feelings with you. Why do you need to talk about your feelings all the time? Just get on with it, would you? Anybody know anyone like this? Anybody married to anybody like this? We don't need close friendships. You know, self-sufficiency, independence, we're great. I don't need to worry about being alone or being abandoned because I'm just fine by myself. Because a rock feels no pain, and an island, anybody? Never cries. They're lonely, but you know, anyway. The next one, how about this one? I can't live If living is without you. Okay. I'm going to confess this would be me. We desire intimacy, but fear rejection. We like sharing our feelings a whole lot, but others don't seem to want to be as open as we are. I don't really understand. Our feelings can get a little out of control sometimes, like before lunch today. We worry about being alone or abandoned, and in our own close relationships. We have really strong desires to be intimate, but our intensity can scare people off sometimes. And we really worry about rejection. Sometimes we're told, you're a little too emotional. Anybody relate to that? Or married to one of those? Okay. Here's another one. Okay, this is Katy Perry. And just heard her recently and trying to remember. Okay, so sing it along with me here if we can. Ready? I'm hot and you're hot and you're cold, you're ifs and you're no, you're in and you're out, you're up and you're down. Thank you. Phew! Okay. My daughter will die. Okay. These people, we desire close relationships but push others away. It's just too scary. Our feelings are confusing, so we just try not to feel them. Anybody relate to that? I want to be close to others, but then I want to pull away. It's that come here, go away. Sometimes I'm really needy, but then I'm distant. I struggle letting others get close because relationships make me feel very vulnerable. People are unpredictable, so close relationships are just hard to come by. Maybe it's just not worth it. I think most of us can relate to something in one of those descriptions. The thing is, God designed us for intimacy, for true intimacy. We were made to share our feelings with those that we're close to and have them comfortably share their feelings back with us. God wants us to feel comfortable getting close to people as well as being alone. Some of us are very good with being with people, but not so much being alone. Others are really great being alone, but not so much with people. God desires that we have both. We can expect others to treat us with respect and respond to our needs in a sensitive way. Emotions are meant to be felt, but not overwhelming. Times of stress can be opportunities to seek comfort from our family and friends. There's a balance between my need for intimacy and my need for achievement and success. So how many of you would like to move more closely to this latter description of intimacy in your lives? Does that sound good to anybody? Okay. Well, guess what? That's what we're designed for. Researchers at the University of Dartmouth Medical School found, and this is really cool, this is a quote, all scientific research shows that from the time a baby is born, a baby's brain is biologically already formed to connect in relationships. Cool. I think that's so cool. In another 30-year study, they also found the single most significant predictor for these 5 issues: mental illness, hypertension, malignant tumors, coronary heart disease, and suicide. Single most significant predictor. Anybody want to take a guess?
No father, no mother.
Lack of closeness to the parents, especially the father. It's not diet, exercise, genetics. Lack of closeness to the parents. That's pretty important. So what happens when we have this built-in need and desire for connection, but then we struggle to connect? What happens? We usually end up reaching for something to fill the void. We all know about addictions. We've heard a little bit about that in some of the other talks today. I used to think of addictions as drugs, alcohol. That was pretty much it. Well, there's a few more. You know, basically anything that we reach for that takes the place of God in our life can become an object of an addiction. So the ones that you might think of as typical addictions, drugs, alcohol, pornography or any type of sex, gambling, anger, those are some of the ones that you might think about. But what about the good, acceptable, and churchy addictions? I'll throw a few of those out there and see who squirms. Work, career, kids, shopping, food, working out, money, church. Once your attention gets focused on anything other than God, it can begin to require more and more of your time and attention, and you become deaf to everything else around you. So what do you do about this? How do you get these types of relationships without turning to the other thing? It starts with recognizing how things were not the way that they were meant to be. God didn't design us this way. He wants us to have truth in our inmost being. So if we don't understand the truth about our situation, we won't even understand what we're missing. It's like the glasses. We don't even know that there are glasses that exist to be able to look through. So we just look the way that we've always looked and think this is all there is. We may be satisfied with less than God intends for us. God has a plan for our life, and that includes intimate relationships. So this is one of those things where, advertisers are always trying to get you to see where you're not satisfied so they can sell you something else. This is one of those times where go for it, go for whatever you can get. So would you like to know how to get started here? Here's a couple things that you can do to move toward the kind of intimacy that God intends for your life. First of all, ask Him to show you the truth about your past, some of the ways that you're growing up, your upbringing influences how you respond to people now. Ask Him to see how this has affected you in your life now. And maybe you'll start to understand how you've made choices for friends and romantic partners, how easily you trust or whether you shut people out. When you decide that you'd like to grow, you can actually take steps to move in that direction. Let's say you realize that you don't trust very easily. You understand why trust is difficult for you and you'd like to trust more. There's no trick to this. It's just like if you want to lose some weight, what do? You gotta start exercising and changing your eating pattern. If you want to learn to trust more, you actually just have to start trusting. And it sounds so contradictory. Start with something very small. Start with somebody that seems trustworthy. Ask somebody that you know, who do you trust? Go to a pastor, go to a counselor, whatever you have to do, and start small. And just start revealing little bits of yourself and see if you can start to trust a little bit more. Years ago, I found myself really needing some new friends. I found that most of my friends were friends simply because I sat next to them in chemistry or something. I hadn't really chosen these friends, they just became friends. I was at my kids' school one time looking around the room and I thought, I like her and I like her. And I'm gonna see if I can't choose some friends deliberately. So I went up to them and I said, I'm looking for some friends. This may sound a little odd. I feel a little weird, but would you be willing to have lunch with me and see if we might hit it off? And we had lunch. Wanna be friends? Well, after we had lunch a couple times, I said, okay, I now that you've gotten to know me a little, I have 3 criteria. Number 1, I really did this too. You have to be willing to share some of your struggles. Please don't be perfect all the time. Number 2, don't run away when I share my struggles. I promise I won't do it every day, but don't run away. Number 3, don't quote scripture at me. So those were my 3 criteria for friendships. Those 2 women are 2 of my best friends today. Sandy is one of them. And I absolutely love them. So it's crazy, it was scary, it was risky. I certainly felt silly, but you know what? I found they were looking for intimacy just as much as I was. Through our time together, we've talked about our fears of intimacy. We each know which of us tends to run away, which one of us wants more intensity, and which one of us really can't decide whether she wants to be in the relationship or not. But we love each other, and we accept each other just as we are. It's so funny because I am such a mess. And you know what? So are they. And just this week as I was preparing for this, it was Tuesday. I had this whole talk already lined up, and I called my friend and said, I just can't do it. Everybody talks about relationships, and I have nothing new to say, and nobody's going to like this. Kind of like what I did today. And she said, you do this every time. This is so who you are. It's your anxiety speaking. It's not the truth. You know that. Get a grip. She prayed with me. It's so awesome to have a friend like that who knows you that deeply and that I know I can call and blubber and she's okay and she doesn't run away. So anyway, I recognize that the way I treat human relationships is similar to the way that I treat my relationship with God. I happen to be, in case you haven't noticed, a little bit emotional. Just a little. I love intensity and I love intimacy. I can scare people off with my intensity. But you know what? I can't scare God off. Sometimes I feel like he's abandoned me because he doesn't respond to my demand for intimacy again and again and again. I've come to realize this is my issue, not his. He's perfect. I'm broken. Things in life have wounded me. I demand, I cry, I push, I try to control. Some of you may avoid, ignore, act like it doesn't matter, get mad, run away, or choose not to care. These are our issues, but we can grow. I don't know how God will answer your prayer to grow the intimacy of your relationships, but I know that he will. It may take some time, but maybe today the Holy Spirit might just give you a new set of glasses to see your relationships through. Thank you.